Ladies and gentlemen, you likely have a silent villain in your body working right now to sabotage your health and well-being. Stay tuned to find out what it is and what you can do to stop it. Welcome to Return to Eden. I'm Kendra Hann, fitness and nutrition specialist, joined today by Joe Horn, board-certified holistic health practitioner, and Jamie Woodle, integrative nutrition health coach and master of health science education. Inflammation. We're told it's inevitable, just a normal part of the aging process. But what if we told you there is absolutely something that you can do to combat that condition and its underlying root causes and take back control of your health today? Now, Joe, if you were going to simply explain what inflammation is to our audience, how would you do that?
Well, that is quite an assignment, isn't it, Jamie?
Yeah.
How do you simply explain inflammation? So there's a really simple way to explain what inflammation is. It is the body's natural response to all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. This might be an injury. You know, it's very common. You hurt your elbow playing tennis racket and your elbow swells. It's the body's way of almost casting itself to prevent further micro damage and further injury. So it will rush blood to the source. Muscles and tissues become very inflamed. It's the body's reaction to an injury to actually help you. Then there's the kind of inflammation that becomes chronic and even systemic. And I'm not going to get ahead of Jamie because she's got a lot of things that she wants to add about that. Mm-hmm. But chronic or even systemic or periodic inflammation can be a side effect of underlying root causes like an allergic reaction to something you're eating. So when I say there's a simple way to explain what inflammation is, that can be explained very easily. Getting into the underlying root cause, someone's bio-individuality, why two people can eat peanut butter and one of them goes into anaphylactic shock, the other one eats 10 jars a day and seems okay other than rapid weight gain, but metabolically isn't showing any signs of an allergy to peanut butter, et cetera. That's an extreme example. And then there's thousands and thousands and thousands and actually millions of smaller, harder to detect micro examples that are really anomalistic in trying to get to the root cause of somebody's inflammation. For example, growing up in life, I did not know why I had gigantic difficulties with digestion. I would go to doctors, they would say, this is not terribly unusual. At your age, developing some personal issues with that, it's not terribly uncommon. Let's just take more fiber. But I was never told as I was developing into my 20s conditions like diverticulosis and prostatitis and prostodynia and pleurisy. Now inflammation is running away in one system of my body to the next system of my body to the next system of my body, that it was in large part the dietary decisions that I was making. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So is Joe Horn genetically predisposed to just being riddled with inflammation? No. Was I told at any juncture along the way as I was dealing with these various things and then the side effects of having guttural inflammation now residing in my prostate? In my 20s, are you kidding me? What in the world? And then would later find that I have MTHFR, which is a genetic SNP called methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. Try saying that 10 times fast.
Just what I was thinking.
But it means, if you're not familiar with the term methylation, it means the conversion, the storing, the utilization. When your body eats a mineral, when your body receives a vitamin, it's how it effectively or ineffectively breaks it down, stores, converts into things that your kidneys require for detox, converts into things that your body needs, like zinc for the making of testosterone. If your body is not methylating properly, which I believe mostly resides the very beginning of methylation in the gut, you're going to have body-wide inflammation, even though you may not feel it in your gut. It could be that you're actually intolerant to something your body desperately needs, like a B12. Mm-hmm. To keep healthy neurological connections between your body and your brain. But you swallow all the B12 that you want and you end up with brain fog. How is that possible? It's very likely that your digestion has compromised your methylation. And so regardless of what you swallow, you're going to have body-wide inflammation. So again, explaining what inflammation is very simple. Trying to get to the root cause of what is causing someone maybe watching this program's inflammation can be a little more anomalistic and difficult to detect. But again, and I don't want to get ahead of Jamie or you, Kendra, but we're going to be talking about gut health a lot in this program and how it affects things like inflammatory markers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so let's unpack the chronic inflammation a little bit for our viewers. We hear this term a lot. What exactly is that and what makes it bad? Well, chronic inflammation is when your body is reacting to a consistent localized injury response. A good example of that would be a person who maybe abuses alcohol and they're constantly consuming this, and it's very toxic and inflammatory, and it really taxes the liver and damages the liver. Well, when you're constantly doing this, the body's constantly trying to heal the liver, and it creates this environment of chronic inflammation, which causes further damage. There's also systemic chronic inflammation, and that's where you are inflamed throughout your body. This often happens from things like food sensitivities maybe you weren't aware of. Your body is reacting. And this is bad because this chronic inflammation that lasts longer to the point where it's no longer helping, it's starting to damage the cells, and damaged cells can cause things like cellular dysfunction, which leads to metabolic disease.
That's right.
This can also cause cellular damage that results in cellular mutations, which can lead to things like cancer. So getting control of this chronic inflammation is absolutely imperative to be able to heal your body from just about anything.
So we discussed a few of the things that can cause those types of inflammation genetically, and then, of course, with your life choices. But what are some other causes of inflammation?
Well, they're everywhere. And as I asserted in last week's program, most of them are invisible. And we're hoping that some benevolent arm of the government or somebody in food service somewhere is regulating what we're eating. But it's not just in your food. I know that there's people watching this program right now are thinking, yeah, I've heard about the gut. I'm literally eating as clean as I possibly can. Why do I still have this anomalistic issue with my thyroid? And we're talking about macronutrients, micronutrients. We're talking about a litany of tests that you could spend the rest of your lifelong's fortunes having run over and over and over again, blood labs and a baseline look at your minerals and where's your B12. And you end up doing what I call symptom chasing. The frustration is we're living in an era where we've destroyed our land, the soil that we pull food out of. So even organic labeling does not guarantee that something is nutritionally rich. It might mean there's an absence of an abundance of pesticides, but it doesn't mean you're getting a robust delivery of iron.
Exactly.
From a dark leafy green that you might have gotten 25 years ago.
Right.
So that's the other thing is people are spending a fortune on organic foods, and they're thinking, I'm still sick. There's also dysfunction in places like the pancreas. Your body's not producing enough bile or enzymes in tandem with your liver to break down what you are eating. So there's waste in that way. You're buying really top shelf supplements, et cetera, but again, you're not methylating them properly. You can't absorb your food. So most of it is just really expensive waste that you just pass on. So again, I tuned into this show for hope, and this guy is just frustrating me. You asked me what are some of the causes.
Yes.
There are heavy metals in our environment. I personally believe that they're in our atmosphere. I believe that they're being sprayed in the sky. And even if you don't accept that premise, they're definitely on the foods that we eat and in the air. So picture you're driving. If you drive a car, you're being exposed to heavy metals. What are right in front of you every hour that you're in traffic?
Exhaust. Cars.
Exhaust.
Other vehicles.
Brake pads.
Dump trucks.
Every time a brake pad compresses to slow the vehicle, where does that brake pad go?
It disintegrates slowly.
It's maybe coming through your air conditioner. There are so many counterfeit minerals that are used in foods, and particularly breads, that go in that block the thyroid's capacity to absorb things like iodine. Because your body is now, again, dysfunction and methylation, some of the cellular dysfunction that you're talking about, the neurological pathways of your brain that command your cells to do certain things for the benefit of your health, are now confused because they've been at this for so many decades that it is really struggling to distinguish the difference between iodine and something synthetic. So you have thyroid dysfunction, and your doctors keep tinkering with your medications, T3, T4, what part of the conversion are you breaking down? And you feel like a guinea pig. So, heavy metals, the cosmetics that people wear, again, they don't have a clue. Aluminum-based deodorants, because nobody wants to be wet under the arm or be a normal human being, so they suppress what the body's actually trying to do is exfoliate. And ironically, if you don't wear deodorant, because I don't, you actually don't have an odor. Most people won't have an odor about 6 months after the fact because their body has released enough. There's no backlog. So we grow up in this world where everything's plastic, everything's fake. Our food is fake. Our media is fake. What we're told about our health is mostly fake.
Our education.
Our education is often, there's places where bits of that are fake. And then we wonder why we're in health crisis.
Right.
Or why our health is cascading as a country. So heavy metals, our air. How many of you drink water and you live in the city? If you're not filtering your water through something like a Berkey water filter, or distilling it and then remineralizing it, how many of you know that there's a strong possibility you're taking birth control? Look it up, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Birth control, city water. And you will find as a side effect, once again, heavy metals, lead, the piping itself, the plastics. These are all things that build up in the liver, they build up in the lymph nodes, they build up in the kidneys.
There's also a lot of dietary factors that maybe you've heard of. Not all have heard of these. There's things like eating a diet high in refined carbohydrates. That causes a lot of inflammation, damages the gut, causing more gut chronic inflammation. Inflammatory oils. This is getting a lot of traction on social media now, talking about inflammatory oils. And it is in everything. If you read the labels and the ingredients of the things you are purchasing from the store, it's in everything. Alcohol is easily abused in our society. Ultra-processed foods are very common in school lunches.
Yeah.
Snacks, vending machines at schools, they're everywhere. And they're made to be addictive.
Absolutely.
And we're constantly inflaming ourselves just living this normal American lifestyle.
Yeah, the standard American diet is extremely problematic.
Food sensitivities, like we brought up earlier. When you have leaky gut and you develop these food sensitivities, you may not even know that you are causing chronic systemic inflammation throughout your entire body. There's also, speaking of leaky gut, you may not understand about the microbiome. And that is something we're passionate about and can't wait to share with you. How to heal your gut microbiome. It is connected to everything.
Right. No, I know. At one point in my life, I actually told the Lord, I said, Lord, I don't know if being stuck at 70% is your way of rewarding me from death as Joe's new best norm. But then he showed me some things like fermented mushrooms, fermented beets, and whole cloth bovine gelatin. And that trifecta for me, if you're watching this show, honestly, that trifecta for me has been kind of the magic pill, the one that you search for, the one that you pray about. It has been a miraculous trifecta for my gut. Two of them we actually have at Eden's, and sometimes I'll use the collagen, but the fermented mushrooms, the fermented beets, and either collagen or bovine gelatin. But those three things, what they do to nourish the lining of the gut, what it does to help tighten up those holes that are allowing food particles to slip through because of inflammation, giving your body and your liver a reprieve from leaky gut syndrome, enough to self-repair. And friends, I had tried all of the fibers. I mean, I know today's program is not about my journey, but I'm just telling you, I'm not going to name the doctors who have major protocols online, but I tried them. My wife and I had depleted $10,000 at one point from what was all of our savings and more, going through how do I repair my gut type endeavors. And I'm just telling you, first I got to give God credit for creating mushrooms and beets. But Daniel Belt, my partner from Eden's way back in the day, he was the guy that said, let's try the trifecta. So I would love to spike footballs and take credit, but Daniel, if you're watching, man, you know where you live in my heart. He's a huge influence. So
another thing that has a great impact on inflammation would be just the stress of the fast-paced lifestyles that we're all living. And that disrupts your circadian rhythm, which then can contribute to a lack of sleep, which increases inflammation in your body, makes it harder for you to process the stress of your life. So it's just this cyclical issue that never really stops. It's self-perpetuating.
There's so much about our current American culture that sets us up for chronic inflammation. And unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go into all of it today. But we really want to leave our viewers with some information on what they can begin to do today to help make an impact in reducing their inflammation. So I would begin with the plate. You really want to look into an anti-inflammatory diet. And that is one that consists of a large amount of fruits and vegetables, brightly colored. You've probably heard eat the rainbow, and that's because of the polyphenols in the plant foods. that actually protect your cells from oxidation caused from chronic inflammation. Another dietary thing that our viewers can do today is to really limit the amount of refined carbohydrates that they eat. Now, this is white breads, white rice. These things spike your blood sugar, and your body has to compensate by spiking your insulin. This process can cause a lot of chronic inflammation. So try to eat things like complex carbohydrates with protein and a lot of vegetables.
Reducing inflammation is critical to addressing chronic diseases, and there are a lot of changes that we've discussed today that can be implemented right now. You can look up deep breathing techniques online to help manage the stress, respecting the boundaries that you have set for yourself, understanding that no is a complete sentence, and casting your cares upon the Lord because He cares for you.
If you're watching this program and you haven't tried the techniques that these ladies have put forth, if you haven't made the dietary changes that they've talked about having to do with eating a low-carb diet and watching your glycemic intake, if you haven't done the prayers or have developed a relationship with Jesus Christ, these are all things that can help mitigate stress if you're a person who has not given them a try. For those that have, you already know that they're potent and they work. If you've never heard of something called curcumin, I would also offer this as one of the most robust ways of helping your body through supplementation. So this is a food source in the fight against inflammation. Curcumin comes from the curcuma longa root, and the curcuminoids from curcumin are the active constituent from that root that help fight inflammation. So you may have heard of the word turmeric. You may have even heard turmeric used in foods. A lot of Indian foods or cultural foods like Thai food will use things like turmeric as a flavor enhancer. No, you're not going to get a lot of the curcuminoids from something like a food spice. Even though you may love it on the palate, that's not going to get the job done. You can also just take straight turmeric by itself. But the reason I started with curcumin, Kendra, is because turmeric is the whole root. And of that root, yes, it can be powdered, but of that root, 2 to 4% of that root is going to be the active constituent called a curcuminoid from curcumin. So the thing that goes in like the flamethrower to help your body put out inflammation, for a lot of people, it's going to be the curcumin. You might get some relief from inflammation just taking like a straight turmeric capsule, but I personally have found that having those isolates, and I'm not always a fan of an isolate, but because it's from food, the curcumin can do a lot of things. People will use curcumin. My father, before he passed away, years and years ago, reversed his type 2 diabetes with the consumption of a liposomal vitamin C. Basic dietary choices like avoiding breads. He didn't even go crazy with his eating, just avoiding breads and avoiding sugary drinks and things like that. And then the use of curcumin. And ladies and gentlemen, we don't have time in this program, but you can go online right now and look up curcumin, type 2 diabetes, and you'll see what it has done for millions of people in helping them become free of their glycemic overload and type 2 diabetes. And of course, just for fun, a really good tag team partner for curcumin in the fight against type 2 diabetes and inflammatory markers is berberine, another source from food. Those two tagging up. When you see a holistic doctor, a lot of these individuals, the first day you walk in with inflammation or a glycemic overload, type 2 diabetes, you're having issues managing your weight, one of the first things they're going to do is, have you heard of curcumin? And its tag team partner, berberine. And the two, what they do to help, rid the body of glycemic stores, what it does to help regulate blood, what it does to help with inflammatory markers and weight loss is literally a miracle from the one who made it.
We covered a lot of ground today, but we are all out of time. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by the wealth of information you got today, do not be discouraged. You're not alone. If you have a specific question about anything we covered today or a topic that you're passionate about that we could dive into, please leave a comment below. My name is Kendra Hann, and we'll see you next time on Return to Eden.